Ukraine is regaining ground on multiple fronts, but you wouldn't know that if you were Trump listening to Putin's version of the story. So let's look at what's really going on here. Okay, last night, Ukrainian drones reportedly struck Litsky logistics hub in Voronezh region at night. Now, that doesn't mean anything to me until I start to research and say, well, what is this hub? This railway hub clearly shows how important it is for the entire Russian railway system. If we look at this here, like it's interconnected, and the Russians are deeply dependent on their railway system for military logistics. Litsky Railway Station is one of the largest railway hubs of the Southeast Railway of the Russian Federation. Again, that's how they move men and materiel. Struck by a Ukrainian drone last night. The sky's not supposed to look like that. This is the after, or this is the before, and that's where it was. This is the 16th strike on Russian rail infrastructure in the past month. 16th. Now, that sounds high, but it's higher when you recognize that today is the 17th of the month, and that's a 16th strike on railway infrastructure in the past month. What do you think the Ukrainians are trying to accomplish here? Ukrainian partisans also torched a railway relay cabinet in occupied Luhansk. And then there's more. This was the exploded workshop that we saw from 2 nights ago of the gunpowder plant in Ryazan, which produced 152 millimeter ammunition. It's really kind of no longer with us, this thing. I mean, yeah. And then the oil refinery in Volgograd that we saw hit yesterday or the day before, one of the largest in the country, exploded again, but this time during repairs from previous drone strikes. So apparently they were welding and they kind of blew stuff up again. So this was not last night. This was the day before, during the day while they were repairing. But yeah, how about that? Okay. An analysis concludes disrupting these choke points would cripple Russia's logistics and weaken its control over occupied areas. So, of course, that seemed like it was a fruitful thing to pursue. Okay, so then I saw this. The Hudson Institute lists Russia's 8 most fragile military arteries Ukraine could sever next to break the stalemate. Okay, so the first thing that I'm seeing here is the Hudson Institute. Who's the Hudson Institute? Well, so I'm a conservative, as you know. The Hudson Institute is a conservative think tank. In fact, this guy here, Luke Coffey, left Heritage, which became one of the ultra MAGA, Russia's good, Ukraine, why are we involved in Ukraine, pro-Orban groups. He left Heritage, which was the flagship conservative group for Hudson. Okay, the Institute argues that such attacks could reshape the course of the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. Well, where are these? So things like the Volga-Don Canal. This is connecting the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. And if you could cut off this canal, you could keep things from really getting shipped back and forth through it. The Shahed drone plant in Tatarstan, they're well aware of this one, and they keep going after it. The China-Russia land routes, if you can cut some of these connections, that's going to be important. Crimea access routes. And so there's a handful of them. We always think about the Kerch Bridge. That's just one way. But there's the land routes through from the land bridge that they've grabbed in Kherson through Zaporizhia. If you could cut these particular routes, it makes it really, really hard for them to sustain Crimea. Rail bridges in Western Russia. And then there's things like if they went after what happened in South Ossetia, if they could hit some of those targets, it would really hamper Russia's ability to project force or go after Transnistria or even the Russian Pacific fleet bases. They're pretty vulnerable and they're not expecting them there. So it's really interesting what they could go after. Okay, so Ukraine, to summarize, is going after the rail lines, oil depots, things along those lines, all the logistic things. Russia still doing what Russia was doing. Overnight, Russia launched Iskander-M ballistic missile and 60 Shahed drones with decoy UAVs from multiple directions. Ukraine's electronic warfare, mobile fire groups, and air defense units intercepted 40 of them. So that's not a great ratio. About a third still got through. 12 sites were hit in 3 oblasts last night. Some broke through. A missile and another 20 drones hit 12 locations in frontline areas of Kharkiv, Donetsk, and the Dnipropetrovsk regions. Massive drone and missile strikes remain Russia's typical tactic to exhaust Ukraine's air defenses and paralyze life in frontline territories. Okay, on the battlefield, what was going on last night? And this is what we want to focus on. 900 Russians off the battlefield, 4 tanks, 8 armored fighting vehicles, 49 artillery systems, 88 vehicles and fuel tanks. So the cross direction, Russian invaders conducted 38 assaults, and they keep coming after Pokrovsk, keep coming after Pokrovsk, keep coming after Pokrovsk. Now, here's Pokrovsk. Here's the bunny rabbit. Remember the bunny ears? And it looks like this is the deep state map, and the deep state map's a couple days old, but it's showing that, yeah, it's been severed. I'll show you more about this severing. Between August 4th and 16th, Ukrainian forces achieved gains in several directions. Units of the National Guard's 1st Corps Azov, together with adjacent forces, cleared 6 settlements in Donetsk region. Russian losses amounted to 910 killed, 335 wounded, 37 captured, significant equipment destroyed, including tanks, artillery, 90 UAVs. Stabilization operation near Dobropilia, it continues. Okay, so again, here's another one of this Dobropilia. So that it's cut here. These guys are largely encircled. There's really nowhere else to go. Like, I mean, maybe they could run out here or something, but I'm sure there's Ukrainian troops out this way as well. This is all Ukrainian held. Reportedly, 1st Azov of the National Guard unit of Ukraine pushing Russian troops back at Pokrovsk. The whole Russian breakthrough was a huge PR offensive organized for a Trump-Putin meeting. Capitulate or Ukraine will be crushed, right? I mean, that's now, there's more to it than that. You have to have a problem, like both sides get to have a say. And even if Russia was just pushing on this, they had to find a weak spot somehow to push on. Now, we've been talking about the lack of troops on the front lines, or it's thinly manned, or that sort of thing. But that had to be going on along the way in order for Russia to be able to really push. But once you found a soft spot, they really pushed. And again, I'm sure it was a huge PR offensive, but there's got to be more than that. But they've stabilized it now, and that's a good thing. Azov brings Russians back to reality. Trump apparently thinks that Russia's failure to capture all of Donetsk stems from Putin's good-natured forbearance. Well, that's what Putin's telling him. Look, if we were really doing things. Putin told him that Russia was making significant progress to capture the entire Donetsk region and other areas. Is that really true? Now, I talked about this the other day. I want to come back to that concept in just a moment. It's difficult on Ukrainian fronts, but we haven't seen convincing evidence that Russia is capable of achieving a sustained operational level breakout in the conditions 24/7 of drone surveillance. Remember, we're still talking about Pokrovsk, Chasiv Yar, Kupiansk years in. It's been a couple of years and they're trying to capture these kinds of places. Chasiv Yar looks like it's pretty much under Russian control. Took them 2 years to do it. Pokrovsk, still don't have it. Okay, can you get a World War II Hitler blitzkrieg kind of thing to punch through? I don't see how it's possible with all the drone surveillance. We now have visual evidence of Ukrainian troops containing the potentially catastrophic Russian breakthrough in Donbass, retaking a string of villages. Again, there's not going to be there's reasonably fixed lines now. Ukrainians aren't going to punch through. Russians aren't going to punch through. This is just where we are. Russian forces deploy deceived migrants and forcibly mobilize separatists as cannon fodder. They suffer catastrophic 80% casualty rates. Now, that's not across. You can't extrapolate that to everywhere, but in these particular regions where they are, it's very bad for them. Seizing the remainder of Donbass Oblast would likely be a difficult and years-long effort for Russian forces rather than the quick effort as Putin likely aims to portray, which is why he's asking for, give us all of Donbass and it'll be over. Why? Because that'll save him 3-4 years worth of effort. Russian forces currently have no means of rapidly enveloping, penetrating, or otherwise seizing Ukraine's fortress belt or the remainder of unoccupied Donetsk Oblast. Now, with that, here's the British intelligence update. Now, there's a statement here that it would take Russia another 4.4 years and over 1 million more dead Russians to occupy just these 4 regions of Ukraine. Now, I did the math the other day, and it took at least north of 3 years at the present rate of just the last 2 months. Now, that's just using the last 2 months. They're doing it a little differently. They're saying 4 years over. Okay, so let's look at this. Based on the rate of Russia's incremental battlefield advances so far in 2025, so that's over the last 7 months. I calculated over the last 2 months before. It would take Russian forces approximately 4.4 more years to gain 100% of the 4 Ukrainian Oblast territory. And that's just doing the rough cut with the math. That's not even including that it's the fortress belt that's in the way, right? Based on Russia's average daily casualty rate in 2025 so far, we reported the General Staff 4.4 more years of war would lead to approximately 1,930,000 further Russian casualties killed and wounded. This is in addition to the approximately 1,060,000 casualties Russia has already likely sustained since launching the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which is why Putin's just saying, give us this, and we'll be done. And like, if you could win it politically, you don't need to win it militarily, and it would be a whole lot easier for Putin doing it that way. All right, Ukrainian drone team leads Russian soldier into safe captivity. He's alive, treated well, will not kill anyone. So this guy's crawling on the ground. You'll see him getting up in just a little bit on the screen and being like, I got my hands up, I'm walking to safety. And as long as a Russian drone doesn't see him doing that, he'll be fine. He'll get to safety, and he did get to safety. But a Russian drone would come in and kill him because that's what Russians do. It's just bizarre to see. Okay, Ukrainian military claimed advances in northeastern Sumy at the same time. So there's advances on hitting oil, hitting rail. There's advances in pushing back in Pokrovsk. There's advances in Sumy. There's a lot of good, positive things going on for the Ukrainians right now. Meanwhile, China is taking notes, taking everything that Russia is teaching about it and readying to join Putin's global conquest of territories in the power vacuum left by the West. Golden age for enemies of civilization, says Jay in Kyiv. That's his commentary. But yeah, China's paying attention. Chinese drones during preparations for a military parade in Beijing. Like what China has been watching with great interest what's going on in Ukraine, advancing their own tech and getting prepared for potentially taking Taiwan. It's just an image of Ukrainian Air Force MiG-29 Fulcrum operating over the Black Sea. You see a ship over here on the right providing cover for a cargo ship heading to the port of Odessa. And then finally, my friends, I have good and bad news for you. The good news is that they found Waldo. There's also bad news. You'd get that if you read the kids' books when you were little. Anyway, thank you, my friends, for the time. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. And thank you more than anything for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.